to Half the Battle. Another week, another list.
And since Cobra got a turn last time, today I'm gonna run down the top 10 best G.I. Joe aircraft. Sort of a top 10 anyway.
Let me explain.
The number 10 is actually more of an honorable mention, but they round off the list nicely, so I'm counting them. Number 10 and or honorable mention, the Defiant and Crusader shuttles. Okay, first of all, the Defiant is an entire playset, not just a vehicle, and they're both spacecraft, not aircraft. But to not have these huge bad boys on the list would be a crime against great toys everywhere.
So, here they are.
On a side note, I would have loved to be in the budget meeting where Hawk explains his military branch that has like 200 people needs, not one, but 2 space shuttles.
Oh, before we move on, the standard disclaimers apply. Just because a vehicle isn't on the list doesn't mean I think it's bad, just that they're not as good as the ones that did make the list.
And I'm not putting repaints or reimaginings on the list. Ignore the Crusader I just put on the list, it was an honorable mention. Number 9, the Night Attack Chopper. Now here's a beefy fighting machine. From the 2002 G.I. Joe vs. Cobra line, this thing is pretty big and packs one hell of a punch. Though personally, I ignore the sound attack stuff Hasbro insisted on including in all these vehicles, as it's great without that. The only weird thing about it is that it didn't come with a figure.
Which is practically unheard of for a vehicle of that size.
Number 8, the Shark. Yes, this thing appears on both the best water and air vehicle lists, like it ain't no thing. It's great as a submarine, it's slightly less great as an aircraft, but still worthy of being on the list, especially since this was a really innovative idea for a toy at the time. Number 7, the Vector. From Battle Force 2000, this is a weird but awesome looking jet. The back turret is removable to be a standalone piece, which is kinda neat. Better than the other Battle Force 2000 vehicle gimmicks at any rate. It also works as a futuristic looking piece of military hardware. Yeah, this is probably my favorite thing that came out of all the Battle Force 2000 stuff. Number 6, the Skyhawk. Small and sweet, that's the Skyhawk. A completely fictional vehicle.
But it's so cool!
It's a good counterpart to the Fang while being its own very unique thing. What's funny is that this was one of the vehicles recolored in chrome for Sky Patrol, and that line of toys had a habit of renaming those vehicles by putting the word Sky in front of the name, but since the original was already called the Skyhawk, they just kept that name unaltered.
Which is a shame because naming it the Skyhawk would have been hilarious.
Number 5, the Dragonfly. The original G.I. Joe helicopter, and still one of the best. This toy was based on the real-life Bell AH-1 Sea Cobra, so you can see why the Joes would want to change the name. This vehicle looks awesome and is a ton of fun. The reason its position on the list is only at the halfway point is because it is pretty fragile, especially regarding the helicopter blades and their working mechanics. They broke fairly easily, so it's hard to find a mint one today. Number 4. The Conquest. Okay, this thing looks so wrong, but also so right. The forward-pointed wings sure gave it a unique selling point, making it look special enough for the Joe team, while still remaining somewhat realistic.
Did I say somewhat? I meant it's plenty realistic.
Since it was based on the experimental Grumman X-29. It sadly remained experimental since the forward-facing wings, among other things, made it too unstable. Slipstream seemed to make the Joe version work though. Number 3, the Phantom. Just a great looking stealth fighter. Go watch my old review of it.
What I didn't mention there was the weird origin of the design.
It was based on a hypothetical real-world jet. In 1986, the Testor company produced a scale model of the F-19 stealth plane, seemingly based on whispers and rumors they got from their military sources. This turned out to be a little off the mark since what they had described to them was actually the F-117 Stealth. But the design proved to be so popular, it ended up being used in other media, including the G.I. Joe toy line. Weird how things work out sometimes.
Once again, it's time for numbers 2 and 1, and once again, there are no co-winners this time.
Number 2, the Tomahawk. While the Dragonfly is great, the Tomahawk, to me, is so much better. Really cool looking, a lot of room for figures, 2 sets of blades. I dare you to find a flaw with this helicopter. There's tons of play value, big but not too big, and a beautiful color scheme. It very, very nearly made the top of the list.
But it lost by a hair to an absolute classic.
So the number one G.I. Joe aircraft has to be the Sky Striker. Yes, the iconic Tomcat takes first place. By the way, this toy came out a few years before Top Gun. Now, I'm not saying the Sky Striker was one of the reasons why that movie went with the F-14.
But I'm also not saying that.
If nothing else, the G.I. Joe jet paved the way for the popularity of that aircraft. Moving wings, lots of missiles, a working parachute, and a very sleek design. Everything you'd want out of such a toy and more. Because of that and its iconic status both in G.I. Joe and in popular culture, the Sky Striker is number one.
And that was the list.
Did I leave any out? Or would you have put something else in the top spot? Do let me know in the comments below.
Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing?
Crashing through the sky comes a fearful